The human reproductive system is the system of organs and parts which work together for the purpose of sexual reproduction. The male reproductive system. The male reproductive system includes the penis, scrotum, testes, epididymis, vas deferens, prostate, and seminal vesicles. The penis and the urethra are part of the urinary and reproductive systems. The scrotum, testes, epididymis, vas deferens, and seminal vesicles and prostate comprise the rest of the reproductive system. The penis consists of the root, which is attached to the lower abdominal structures and pelvic bones, the visible part of the shaft, and the glans penis, the cone-shaped end. The opening of the urethra is located at the tip of the glans penis. The penis includes three cylindrical spaces of erectile tissue. The two larger ones, the corpora cavernosa, lie side by side. The scrotum is a thick skin sac that surrounds and protects the testes. The testes are oval bodies that average about 1.5 to 3 inches in length and 2 to 3 spoons in volume. It is the part which produces sperm, which carry the man's genes, and produces testosterone, or the primary male sex hormone. Another part is the epididymis, consists of a single cold microscopic tube that measures almost 20 feet in length. Next is the vas deferens, is a firm tube the size of a strand of spaghetti that transports sperm from the epididymis. Another part is the urethra, which serves as a dual function in males. Next is the prostate, lies just under the bladder and surrounds the urethra. Walnut size in young men, the prostate enlarges with age. Next is the seminal vesicles, which is located above the prostate, joined with the vas deferens to form the ejaculatory ducts, which travel through the prostate. Next is the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system includes both external and internal structures. The function of the external female reproductive structures is twofold: to enable sperm to enter the body and to protect the internal genital organs from infectious organisms. So the main external structures of the female reproductive system include the labia majora, labia minora, Bartholin's glands, and the clitoris. And in the internal reproductive organs is the vagina, uterus, ovaries, and the fallopian tube. So in the vagina, it is the canal that joins the cervix, the lower part of the uterus, to the outside of the body. It is also known as the birth canal. Next is the uterus or the womb. It is a hollow pear-shaped organ that is the home to a developing fetus. The uterus is divided into two parts: the cervix, which is the lower part that opens into the vagina, and the main body of the uterus, called the corpus. The corpus can easily expand to hold a developing baby. A canal through the cervix allows sperm to enter and menstrual blood to exit. Next is the ovaries. The ovaries are small, oval-shaped glands that are located on either side of the uterus. The ovaries produce eggs and hormones. And lastly, the fallopian tubes. These are narrow tubes that are attached to the upper part of the uterus and serve as pathways for the ova, or egg cells, to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. Asexual reproduction. So, asexual reproduction means reproducing without the interaction of two sexes or genders, whereas sexual reproduction involves the fusion of two special cells called gametes, one from a male source and one from a female source. So in asexual reproduction, before a cell divides, its nucleus divides. Each chromosome is copied, and each nucleus receives the same genetic material made of DNA. As each cell divides into two, the resulting daughter cells are therefore exact copies of one another. This process is responsible for the increase in number of cells, which occurs during normal growth and development. Normal cell division is also the basis for sexual reproduction. While sexual reproduction, are both and female sex cells are produced by special cell division process which halves the number of chromosomes in each resulting cell. The chromosome separation process ensures that each sex cell has a unique combination of genes in its nucleus. Fertilization is also a random process, and so when the nuclei fuse, the resulting fertilized egg or zygote has an individual genetic makeup. In contrast to sexual reproduction introduces variation into offspring. This is an essential feature in order for evolution to take place. Talking about fertilization, there are two types of fertilization: the external and internal fertilization. So, internal fertilization is the process when the syngamy union of male and female gamete occurs inside the female body after insemination using copulation. In contrast, external fertilization is the syngamy outside the female body, that is in the outer environment, especially in water bodies. So next is the direct and indirect development. So in the direct development, it is the type of development in which an embryo develops into a mature individual without involving a larval stage. Metamorphosis is absent in the direct development. Mostly it occurs in fishes, reptiles, birds, and mammals. And while in the indirect development, it is the type of development that involves a sexually immature larval stage having different food requirements than adults. Metamorphosis is involved in this development, and for example, a larva to sexually mature adult is present. It also occurs in most of the invertebrates and amphibians. To start, gametogenesis is the process whereby a haploid cell is formed from a diploid cell through meiosis and cell differentiation. Gametogenesis in the male is known as spermatogenesis, which produces spermatozoa. Gametogenesis in the female is known as oogenesis and result in the formation of ova. Spermatogenesis is the biological process of producing mature sperm cells and occurs in the male gonad of a sexually reproducing organism. In this process, the undifferentiated male germ cells develop into spermatozoa by a series of events. It consists of stages. First is the spermatocytogenesis, spermatidogenesis, and the third is the spermiogenesis and spermiation. These stages occur in the seminiferous tubules of the testes, except for spermiation that ends up in the epididymis. In humans, spermatogenesis starts at puberty and continues throughout a lifetime. The entire process can take approximately 64 days. Luteinizing hormone, or LH, induces endocrine cells in the testes to release the steroid hormone testosterone and other male sex hormones. Next is the follicle-stimulating hormone, or the FSH, allows testosterone to function, such as in adolescence, the hormone stimulates the development of secondary sex characteristics. Testosterone also stimulates the secretion of growth hormone, causing a growth spurt that increases height, boosts muscle mass, and deepens the voice. In adults, testosterone stimulates sperm production, sustains the libido, and controls the activity of the prostate gland. Next is the oogenesis. It is the process of producing the female gametes, the ovum, from the primordial germ cells. The majority of these steps in oogenesis, up to the point of producing primary oocytes, occur prenatally. Therefore, females are born with all of the primary oocytes that they will ever have, as primary oocytes do not divide further. These primary oocytes are committed to a gamete fate and either become secondary oocytes or degenerate. Oocyte development occurs with follicles, and so oogenesis and folliculogenesis occur in conjunction with each other, interacting via reciprocal induction. Hormones regulating the female reproductive system is the gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or the GnRH. It is produced by a part of the brain called the hypothalamus when it circulates in the blood. It causes the release of two important hormones, the, the estrogen and the progesterone. The estrogen is a female reproductive hormone produced primarily by the ovaries in the non-pregnant women. It promotes the maturation and release of an ovum in every menstrual cycle. It is also produced by the placenta during pregnancy. Next is the progesterone. It is produced by the corpus luteum in the ovary. Its function is to prepare the endometrium or the lining of the uterus for the reception and development of the fertilized ovum. This also suppresses the production of estrogen after ovulation has occurred. Another hormone is the follicle stimulating hormone or the FSH. It is produced by the pituitary gland during the first half of the menstrual cycle. It stimulates development of the maturing ovarian follicle and controls ovum production in the female and sperm production in the male. Next is the luteinizing hormone or the LH is also produced by the pituitary gland in the brain. It stimulates the ovaries to produce estrogen and progesterone. It triggers ovulation and it promotes the development of the corpus luteum. After intercourse, sperm cells swim toward the oocyte. Of the 100 million sperm that begin the journey in the vagina, only about 200 approach the egg cell in a uterine tube. The sperm must penetrate these two layers to contact the ovum. Fertilization starts when the outer membrane of one sperm cell and the secondary oocyte touch. The sperm's head releases its DNA as it enters the secondary oocyte. Meanwhile, the female cell completes meiosis. The sperm and egg DNA combine, completing zygote formation. After this begins the germinal stage. It occurs from conception until 2 weeks, during which the zygote begins to rapidly divide. As the cells multiply, they will also separate into two distinctive masses. The outer cells will eventually become the placenta, while the inner cells will form the embryo. The embryonic stage lasts from implantation until the 8th week of pregnancy. Next is the embryonic stage. At this point, the mass of cells is known as an embryo. The beginning of the 3rd week after conception marks the start of the embryonic period, a time when the mass of cells becomes as distinct as a human. The embryo begins to divide into 3 layers, each of which will become an important body system. Last, the fetal stage. Once cell differentiation is mostly complete, the embryo enters next stage and becomes a fetus. The fetal period of prenatal development marks more important changes in the brain. This period of development begins during the 9th week and lasts until birth. Once these neurons have formed, they begin to migrate to their correct locations. Synapses, or the connections between neurons, also begin to develop. The stage of prenatal development lasts the longest and is marked by amazing change and growth. Contraceptives works by stopping sperm from joining with an egg, which is called fertilization. The hormones in the pill stop ovulation. No ovulation means there's no egg hanging around for sperm cell to fertilize, so pregnancy can't happen. The pill's hormones also thicken the mucus on the cervix. This thicker cervical mucus blocks sperm so it can't swim to an egg, kind of like a sticky security guard. Here is a list of sexually transmitted diseases. First is herpes, crabbeus, gonorrhea, HPV, syphilis, chlamydia, HIV, and trichomoniasis.